Once you understand the symmetrical nature of fully diminished arpeggios, it becomes really easy to come up with licks that cover the entire neck of the guitar with easy to see connecting patterns, like this one. Well, hey there kids, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop here with your good buddy, Uncle Ben, the lick lesson series with the dampest hair on YouTube. This week's lick is an F-sharp diminished 7 arpeggio lick that I made up to show you guys how you can connect diminished arpeggio patterns going laterally across the neck. But before we get into it, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. One of the things you got to understand about a diminished 7 arpeggio is that it is symmetrical, meaning the notes that are inside of this chord, or arpeggio, are all spaced apart from each other in the same intervals. This is really different from a major or minor chord where the notes are spaced apart by different intervals. But like with, let's say, an F-sharp diminished, the notes that are in it are F-sharp, A, C, and E-flat. Now if I play those notes going this way across one string, you'll be able to see they're all 3 frets apart. F-sharp, A, C, and E-flat. Like I've mentioned in some of my other Weekend Wankshop videos about diminished stuff, one of the cool things about this means is that you can basically take any diminished arpeggio that you know and repeat it in 3 fret intervals to get some really cool ideas going. The concept that this week's lick takes advantage of is the fact that you can play a full diminished arpeggio like this, right? I'm gonna go off of the low E string here and play 2-5, A string 3-6, D string 4-7, and basically any one of those notes that are in there can be a starting point for this arpeggio to start over again. So in other words, like the 2-5, right? I could take this same arpeggio shape and start it from there. It's the same notes, A, C, E flat, F sharp. I could start it from right there. F sharp, A, C, E flat. It's the same 4 notes over and over again. So basically what I'm getting at is that within any diminished 7 arpeggio that you learn, any note can be the starting point. That's what this week's lick takes advantage of. The very first thing that I did in this lick is to hit this F sharp diminished 7 chord. I'm starting off with this sort of pre-dipped with the bar and then strumming and letting the bar up at the same time. The chord shape is one of my favorite diminished 7 shapes. I've got the 2nd fret low E, that's my root note, F sharp. I've got my first finger on the D string 1, it's E flat. I've got my ring finger on my G string 2, it's A. And I've also got my first finger clamped down here on the B string 1, that's a C note. So I just hit those 4 notes. The A string is muted, the high E string is muted, so you just hear those 4 notes. So let's dig right into it. I'm starting off with the F sharp note here, low E string, fret number 2. And what I'm going to do is pick that note and hammer onto fret 5. Next I'm going to play the A string on 3. Then I'm going to play the A string on 6 and do a pull off back to 3. And then play the 5 on the low E. So now you have this segment. Next what I'm going to do is to play that same idea but starting from this note. Again, any note in a diminished 7 arpeggio is a new starting point. So I'm going to play the 3rd, hammering on to 6. Then I'm going to go to the D string right here on 4. Play the 7, pull off to 4. And then play the 6 here on the A string. So the first sequence goes. So where that lick ended here on the 6th fret A string, the E flat note, what we're going to do for the next sequence is to put our first finger on that note and play the same sequence again starting from right there. So in other words, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play the 6th fret on the A string, hammering onto 9. Then I'm going to go to the D here on 7, then 10, pulling off to 7, and then play the 9 on the A. So that was. Next what I'm going to do is to play the 7 on the D, hammering onto 10, pick the 8 on the G, 11 on the G, pulling off to 8, and then play the 10th D. So that second sequence started from the E flat note here and went. Quick recap, we should be starting from 2nd E, starting from 6A. So that last sequence ended on the 10th fret D string. Next we're going to start the next sequence from that note. So put your first finger on the 10th fret D here. We're going to play 10 hammering on a 13, G string on 11, G string 14 pulling off to 11, and then play the 13 on the D. So now you got... Next what we're going to do is to play the 11th G hammering on a 14. And next what you got to do here is grab the 13 on the B string. Now that was a bigger jump than what we've been doing. So far all of our other jumps we've been doing have just been going up 1 fret, but you'll notice that this one takes 2 frets to jump up because of the annoying tuning of the guitar. So anyway, we played 11 on the G hammering on 14, 13 on the B, then we're going to play 16 on the B pulling off to 13, 14th G, and then the very last part of the lick here is going to start off from that 13th B string note, that C note right there. You're going to play 13 hammering on 16, 14th high E, 17th high E pulling off to 14. Then you're going to grab 16 on the B. And then what you're going to do is to jump up and play the 19th B and apply some vibrato with that bar if you got one, or you can just shake it with your arm hand if you want to. So that last long sequence went... So the thing to understand about this is it was all basically the same lick, just starting and ending on different points of the arpeggio. Again, these are all either an F sharp, an A, a C, or an E flat. First sequence started from F sharp. Second sequence started from E flat. Third sequence started from C. And the last sequence started from C as well. There's two kind of approaches you could take with the right hand through this lick right here. Probably the most logical one is to play this for every sequence. Go downstroke with a hammer on, upstroke, downstroke with a pull off, and then an upstroke. And then just repeat that through the entire thing. Down, hammer, up, down, pull, up. Down, hammer, up, down, pull, up. Down, hammer, up. The way I end up playing is a little different than that due to my own sort of picking habits. I like to go down, hammer, up, down, pull off, and then do a downstroke right there on the low string before you start over. And again, it'd be that on every sequence. So I like to go down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. So there you go, guys, a sick lick and hopefully some cool ideas about how you can link up diminished 7 arpeggio shapes across your fingerboard. That lick would sound great over an F sharp diminished chord, an A diminished chord, a C diminished chord, or an E flat diminished chord. But if you want to get extra cool harmony points, play it a half step above a dominant chord. That's a really cool, really tense sound. So in other words, if you had F7, play that lick on F sharp above it. Really cool, very dissonant sound, so try that out sometime. Thank you guys as always for watching. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at BenEllerGuitars. I'd also like for you to go and like my new Facebook fan page over on facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. Also, if you're interested in booking some one-on-one Skype lessons with me, be sure to drop me an email, BenEllerGuitars@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to stay tuned next week for another sick lick. Cheers, you guys.